Good morning, Atlanta. Here we are again. It is our last Tuesday of the month, and we are here. Let me start over. Good morning, Atlanta. Here we are again. The Mary Parker Foundation is presenting its monthly community conversation. And if you have joined us, excuse me, we're having a few technical difficulties. Thank you, Amber. If you've joined us earlier this season, if you've joined us over the last 2 months, you will understand that we have a 3-part series, and this month we are concluding the final episode of Educating Beyond the Classroom. And today, you don't see Angela, and you will not see me after this introduction. I would love to introduce to you all one of our finest, and we picked her up by attending a community conversation, Miss Raven Powell. I believe in passing the torch while I can see the flame continue to grow. So Raven Powell is going to be our host for today. And I'm going to allow her to introduce herself to you as well as her esteemed panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the conversation today. And I'm going to be an audience person. Thank you so much, and let's get started.
Well, as we wait for the mic to go up, I can try to project. Hopefully you guys can hear me online and in the room today. But thank you so much for the introduction, Ms. Mary. My name is Raven Powell. I am the CEO and founder of Godly LLC. I was with you guys last month. If you joined in, I was a guest and I talked a lot about my organization, a career advising service, and I have the pleasure of hosting today's conversation. I have with me today Ms. Leah Pulliam from the Urban League and Mr. Ed Davis from Clark Atlanta University. So as we jump into today's conversation, could you tell us a little bit more about your role at Urban League and about your organization in general?
Yes, absolutely. So first I want to say thank you for this opportunity to reach out to the community and to be able to share more about the Urban League, in which I'm a proud been with the Urban League for 6 years now. And I have in the last year or so been promoted to program manager. So I'm pleased to say that. So although, in the front end, the work is always done, it's always nice in the back end to be recognized. So I'm pleased to be a program manager in our adult workforce division, and I oversee our Pathways to Empowerment program, which involves career readiness.
Okay, that sounds good. We'll get a little bit more into that a little later. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Davis, and your role at Clark Atlanta?
Good morning, all. Yes, my name is Ed Davis. I currently serve as the Christine Beecham-Smith Endowed Professor in the School of Business at Clark Atlanta. Previously, for about 15 years, I served as the Dean of the Business School, and I'm just so happy to be here because I'd like to talk a little bit about how we always have town to gown. We think there's a wall built up between the universities and what's happening out in the community. And throughout the day, I hope to share a few things that we're doing at Clark Atlanta that exposes communities to some very exciting things that are going on at our university. I'm in the business school at Clark Atlanta, so I focus a lot on what we're doing with businesses in the community. So I'll share some of those things as we go through the day.
Okay.
Happy to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for joining. And so can you tell us a little bit more about Clark Atlanta? I'm sure all of us here are maybe familiar with the institution, but could you give us a little history? Tell us something about Clark Atlanta.
Well, with the merger of two institutions, they call it a consolidation because we didn't merge. But Atlanta University was founded in 1865 and Clark College in 1869. And so in 1988, the two institutions came together to form Clark Atlanta University. We have about 4,000 students. We have 4 major programs. We have a College of Arts and Sciences, College of Social Work, School of Business, and the College of Education. I happen to be in the School of Business. I've been there, I hate to say it, but maybe I should say it, for 44 years. And it's been really the most exciting period of my life to be at Clark Atlanta. We try to make sure that our students come and get exposed to a lot of things. And in recent years, we've said we don't want to have, although we have fences, if you go over to the campus, you see a fence. But that fence is not to keep people out of it. So we want to talk about programs where we're inviting the community into Clark Atlanta, and especially the young people. I grew up in Maryland, and I had never set foot on a college campus until I went there as a freshman. We need not to have that happen to our young people today. Those campuses are over there, and we need to bring the students in for activities so that they can see what campus life is like. And so I'll talk about a few of the things that we're doing at Clark Atlanta. We have about 4,000 students, and we are a member of the United Negro College Fund. We are the largest United Negro College Fund institution among the 30-some institutions. So I'll be talking about Clark Atlanta here. I love that institution.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, we're gonna get a lot more into what we're doing for the youth in general, but I did want to turn back over to you, Ms. Leah, and can you tell me more about Urban League? I saw online, I was doing some research. You guys have been around for about 104 years.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about the organization, and I saw something about 5 pillars, and maybe you can talk a little about that.
Correct. Well, first and foremost, the Urban League of Greater Atlanta was founded by African Americans for African Americans, although we serve everyone in the community. So that is important to know because, again, with the systematic racism and suppression that has occurred for years and it still exists, the Urban League of Greater Atlanta continues to choose the community to empower and uplift and provide resources and opportunities. So in that regards, we did tailor our pillars down to 5 pillars. When we spoke briefly, there was initially 6, but it was tailored down to 5. And those 5 are health and human services, workforce development. We have wealth building and home ownership. And we also have entrepreneurship. And last but not least, as I call the heartbeat of the organization, is civic engagement and leadership.
That sounds great. And so as you both know, today's conversation is about from learning to leadership in our communities. And so I wanted to start the conversation and really get into the meat about how you guys support our youth. And so I'll ask you first, Mr. Ed, what is Clark Atlanta doing to support youth, maybe the youth that are not currently enrolled, but just generally in the community? How are you supporting and building up the youth?
Well, let me talk about a couple of programs that expose youth to things that non-traditionally they may not have seen. We have a program called the Young African Leaders Institute. Each summer we bring 25 young African leaders. These are not students, these are business people between the ages of 25 and 35. They have about 50,000 applicants for these positions, and they select about 500 people to spread across the country. Clark Atlanta University is one of the few HBCUs that has such a program. We've been in that program for about 10 years. And why do I mention that program? We bring these young African leaders to campus, and they have each week they have some kind of civic engagement. And one of the things we do is we try to take them out to meet with youth, because many times youth think of Africa as backward. They think of Tarzan swinging through the vines. These are young professionals who have great careers, and they expose themselves to these youth. We have about 19 countries that came this year. So these young people were able to see Africa who are making tremendous business decisions, have great companies, can talk about their cities, just like Atlanta, have all of the same attributes of the city of Atlanta. So we expose youth to Africans that I know when I was growing up. The only thing I knew about Africa was what I saw on TV. And Africa is a place that we need to embrace and make sure that our youth are involved with what's going on over in that continent. So I'll talk a little bit about some other youth things that we do, but that's one that I think is particularly interesting because each summer we bring a bunch of youth in and expose them to these 25 young African leaders.
That sounds great. And I think it's really important, the exposure piece that you talked about, especially when you're thinking about leadership. We need leaders who are well-rounded, who are inclusive, who have diverse trains of thought and perspectives. And so that exposure early on is very important. And so how do you identify the students that you bring into that program?
Well, the young people that we identify, they come through an application process. So we typically try to find a school that has a summer program to bring the youth in. But on Clark Atlana's campus, every summer, we run a lot of youth programs. So there are hundreds of youth on campus every summer, and that's how they get exposed.
Thank you. And so I want to turn it over to you. So could you tell us a little bit more about, I saw online the Young and Youth Adult Services. Could you talk a little bit about that division and what you guys do to support the community?
Absolutely. So our youth and young adult division, it serves youth from 14 up to 24. And we're actually in 3 at Promise locations. And one of the locations is on Campbellton Road, right behind the YMCA. So we have services that offer education. So if a youth needs to get their GED because they did not complete high school, they're able to do that, and that's free of charge as well. In addition, we have a workforce program, which introduces the youth to employers, but also tries to make sure that they're ready for employment, and then also to promote that to be long-term employment, and also to help them continue to grow into a sustainable wage. We want to encourage them to understand also the meaning of generational wealth, where it's not just about them, but also about the impact of the family and how they impact the community.
And I'll ask you the same question. So how do you go about identifying these youth? Is there an application process, and what does that look like?
So there is an application process, but we have various ways. We try to touch the community through community outreach activities. So we're always grateful and thankful for any partners in the community to invite us outside where we can meet and greet others. Just making sure our partners know that we have the services, so there can be that referral as well. And then we also have our social media page. Like you said, you did some research on the Urban League. We have a weekly FEERC orientation that discusses all of our pillars and our services and programs. So when a person joins that Tuesday morning conversation with the team, they're able to know more about our programs and services. And then they're connected to the program manager themselves so that they can apply. And typically there is a slot amount that's for different programs. So if there is a waiting list, again, the opportunity is still there because we accept pretty much everyone to come in and try to make sure that we meet them where they are.
Okay, that's great. And you said FEERC.
Yes.
What does that stand for?
Okay. So that title is Financial Emergency Opportunity Resource Center.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. I know we like to speak in acronyms a lot, so I always like to make sure I know in the work that I do, we just fire acronyms off, and I had to stop people like, what does that mean? Just for general knowledge building.
And I'm sorry, I did miss, and I'd have to correct because I hear Miss Nancy right now. I want to make sure. So it's Financial Emergency Economic Resource Center. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much. And so I would ask both of you this question. And so thinking about these programming, like you said, for the youth, and you're bringing people in, it's an application process. I know you said it's an application process for your programs as well. And so what are some challenges that you face with youth as they kind of go through these programs, if any? It might be just a perfect program and everybody's like, yes, but have you encountered any challenges at all? Because I know, when we're working with young people, I'm a young person, sometimes it's pushback against different programs or might not like what you're offering. So have you run into any challenges, and how can you, have you overcome any of these obstacles?
I'll talk about the challenge. Now, I don't necessarily know that we've overcome.
Okay, we can talk about solutions.
Yeah, one of the things that happens at my institution is there's so many activities. And so you have all of these opportunities. It's hard for the students to talk specifically about students to take advantage of some. Let me give you an example. We have something called the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And in that center, they have a lot of great opportunities. We have 3D printers where students can come up and 3D print products that they're trying to get out there. We teach students how to fly drones. We teach students, we have pitch competition. So throughout the year, we run about maybe 50 or 60 different programs throughout that year. And with 4,000 students, it's hard to decide how many of these programs you're gonna participate. So sometimes we don't get the participation that we want to merit the opportunity that we present. So I would say this, it's the opportunity loss. The students have just so many widespread activities that we don't always see the benefit of doing the opportunity.
That's almost a good problem to have. It's so much there, but like you said, the uptake, you want to make sure that people are actually participating in the programs and they have the capacity. So that makes sense. I'll ask you the same thing. Have you run into any challenges or obstacles as you're trying to either bring youth into these programs or once the youth are in?
I would say not necessarily bringing them into the program, but I would say, that participation, the consistency sometimes might be a challenge with that youth. And that we have to also remind ourselves, especially with the population that we serve, that there can also be challenges in their life. And so with that being said, you have to often just be open to sometimes what comes your way. And be able to encourage them to continue to move forward with the opportunity of participating and helping them find what investment looks like to them, because they have to be self-invested in order for their life to change. And, when you're young, sometimes you don't see that in front of you. It can be a little cloudy at times, and I think it's up to us, those that are of older age, to try to help things become more clear.
And so to that point, it seems like both of you guys talked a little bit about how personalization is important. You might didn't say those words, but that's kind of the consensus that I'm getting. Like it's important for either the mentorship or the guidance to really be personalized to the specific student. And so does Urbanly kind of do any personalization of a sign? I know you said they are partnered with program leaders. I think that's what you said a little bit earlier. So can you talk about that process? What does that look like for students?
So we have several positions that kind of encourage that mentorship coaching experience. We have empowerment advocates, which is more of in the case manager role. We don't want to necessarily call it case management. We want to make sure that they're feeling like they're being coached, because at the end of the day, it's their life and we're here to help guide them. And so, and within that role also, when you have a career specialist, it's helping to align them with their career choice or to expose them to what's out there that they may not be aware of. And again, trying to earn that livable wage and to be an impact in their community. But there are several touches in terms of staff. But not only that, I think all of us who serve with the Urban League, especially from the top down with Miss Nancy Blake Johnson, it's always a personable relationship. It's never where your title supersedes the connection and what you want to pour into your participant client. You don't necessarily say that they may just be your friend, but you often know what their life is, past and beyond the program.
Thank you so much. And
Yeah,
I'll ask the same thing.
But one of the things I've noticed in my long tenure at Clark Atlanta is we have a different kind of student today. Almost, I would say, certainly about 70% of our students have entrepreneurial aspirations. So one of the things we do every Thursday, we have the promenade, and students and outside entrepreneurs set up on the promenade to display their wares. So they all have this entrepreneurial spirit. And so what we have now is some ambassadors. We have student ambassadors that are going door to door to the dormitories, to the classrooms, talking about entrepreneurship. And then every spring we have what is called Entrepreneurship Day, where hundreds of students, really surprising to me, come out to display their wares. And some of the entrepreneurial activities they're doing are quite exceptional for students that have to study and go to class and have all these entrepreneurial activities. So I think entrepreneurship is really spreading, not just to our campus, but throughout the campus. Because if you go to Spelman, if you go to Morehouse, you see the same thing. Entrepreneurship, almost every student. And I don't know if you remember, but one graduation ago, Pinky Cole of Slutty Vegan gave every one of our students an entree into entrepreneurship. So our students are always going to have in the back of their mind, we may start working for somebody, but we're going to own something. So that we sign our name on the front check.
In class for that. Yes.
I
Thanks
got
so-
that line from you.
And I think that was a great segue, kind of in my next frame of questioning. So, just thinking about workforce development, training opportunities, entrepreneurship. Of course, you know, the Mary Parker Foundation, we are all about that. Godly, same thing. I'm a young entrepreneur. And so I was doing some research online, looking at Urban League, and I saw that you guys have programs pretty much spanning across all stages of the lifespan. I saw like an AARP skills program for 50 plus, work training opportunities, adult reentry programs. And so I just want to talk a little bit more about workforce opportunities and development programs. And can you tell me how these specific programs were developed and how they support individuals that are trying to achieve financial stability or even entrepreneurship and employment?
So, again, as I said, you know, we meet people where they are. So we have several programs. And I do want to piggyback because we also have our young CEOs since, you know, you were sitting here as an entrepreneur and, you know, Mr. David talked about his programs at Clark. So I do want to say that we have identified that, you know, the youth also need an opportunity to be able to find their way, again, as entrepreneurs, as you're saying. And so with that also being said, in terms of the workforce and that platform, we have programs, again, like I said, that have partnerships that we create because, you know, the Urban League or with any organization, not one organization can do it all. It's very key to have key partners in the community with like minds. And when you have those and you can join forces, then you can absolutely 100% change a life. And you can cause that person to hopefully move forward and come back to say, thank you, I'm now in this position in my life. I'm able to do this in my life. Yes, I want to come back and speak to this group or whatever and tell them how my life has been changed. That's where we know really the impact is made when you can have your success story be live and well and doing great. So it goes beyond the dollar, but it goes again with the sense. Right? Is you have to make sure that that person is whole in themselves. So we try to meet, again, people not just with workforce development, but we also, you didn't ask this question, but this is, you know, I mentioned health and human services. So we do have that tough communication or that tough conversation about mental health. We do have that tough communication about what it is with families when you have dynamics of trouble, or if you may be overwhelmed in a position in your family, or if you need some more support. We've got to make sure that we address those, because how can you be successful if you're broken? You gotta have the support. So it goes beyond just workforce development, but as a community, I think, again, if we touch on all those subjects, we can be stronger, and then that's where, again, individually is where you can be successful.
Can I piggyback on
Yes.
health? This is not for the youth, but we have a Center for Prostate Cancer. And that center is doing tremendous research with disease that really affects almost all of our Black men. So how do we get the word out? People need to go to our website at these universities to see what's going on, because they have workshops, they have screenings, they're doing tremendous research. And if you're of my age, you're worried about prostate cancer. So we got to get those words out, because you got to have mental health, but you also have to have physical health. So that's one activity. Another activity, as I look at Mary Parker's vision over there, right? That's a great vision. We have opportunities, we have museums on these college campuses where kids can come in and see art and so forth, stuff that I never considered when I was growing up. But if we expose these young people to the wealth that's available to them, I think it will make a better community going forward. So we got to break down the walls between the town and the gown. That's been my mantra for about the past 15 years. Let the outside come to the campus, and let the campus go to the outside. And that's what we're about in Clark Atlanta.
That's great. And so I think this was a perfect segue, because I did want to expand the conversation to not just think about the youth program. And although that is important, but we know that people throughout all stages of their lives are trying to either, you know, acquire new skills or, you know, hone the skills that they have and just get better. And so I did want to talk about more supports that you have for people who may not be considered youth anymore, right? Youth is like, what, 18 to 24? And so what type of programming at Clark Atlanta, I'll start with you, Mr. Ed. What programming do you have for individuals, adults that are in their careers and looking to gain more skills or anything like that, that you engage the community to promote continuous learning and leadership?
Yeah, 2 years ago, PNC Bank launched the National Center for Entrepreneurship at Howard University. And Howard has 4 satellite campuses at Morgan State in Baltimore, Texas Southern in Houston, and Clark Atlanta in Atlanta, and Howard in DC. So we have this thing called the PNC Entrepreneurial Center, where we have opportunities not only for training, but also for pitch competitions, and also for grants, and also for money. This is something that if you go to the Clark Atlanta website, put in PNC entrepreneurial activities, you'll see what we're sponsoring going forward. And I can tell you, there's money sitting over there that is not being spent.
Okay, so I need to write this down.
There
What
is
you
money
said.
sitting over there that is not being spent, and we need to spend that money.
I will take that note. Yes, we have a question in the audience.
Is the money at Clark, or is it at the bank's entrepreneurial center?
It's at Clark Atlanta.
We're not leaving any on the table this year, Dr. Davis.
That's right.
The money is at Clark Atlanta for you guys online that didn't hear us. And so thank you for that answer. So I will turn it over to you. What type of programming, and I read off a list, so I know you have some stuff going on at Urban League. So can you tell us a little bit about the program that you have for non-youth?
Yes, so we again partner with many agencies such as WorkSource Atlanta, WorkSource Georgia. As you all may know, especially with that organization or that agency, they have up to $10,000 they can provide for individuals that do qualify for a up to a two-year degree. So we do partner also with Atlanta Technical College. And then if there's credentialing that is also being provided, that's not necessarily 2 years, you can also get or receive up to $7,000. Is that what we're, make sure that we share with our participants and clients. So we make sure that we refer them so they can receive that financial resource to help pay for upskilling or, like I said, a 2-year degree. Again, there's so many programs out there, again, that's just free to enroll into. If you just apply yourself, you can, again, complete and then, receive employment again or career that can definitely move your life and change your life.
That's great. Yeah, so we are all about sharing knowledge and info to our communities. And so I had to ask why I have you both on stage. Are there any new developments or anything coming down the pipeline that we could get first knowledge about here at Community Conversations? And the answer can be no, but I just thought to ask.
Well, I think the thing that's coming down the pike for all of us is AI and how AI is going to impact us. And one of the things that I think these colleges and institutions do, last spring we had the founder of OpenAI on campus, and we invited the community in to talk to him about what is AI, how's AI going to impact community that looks like us. And one of the things he talked about, even the founder, said that we have to put in guardrails to make sure that AI is not going to be discriminatory. So there are lots of programs on these campuses where we invite the community in to learn about the latest thing. And I think if you're not looking at AI, you're going to be lost because AI is here. We as faculty members, we fear it a little bit, but we have to embrace it. We tell our students, use AI as a framework. Don't use AI as the answer. Now, let me give you an example. I'm doing some research right now around why Black corporate directors are not on college campuses as their trustees. And so one of the things I did is I went to AI and said, give me a literature search. AI sent back 25 articles. Every one of them were hallucinations. Every time I looked up the article, it was fake. Even the former president of Morehouse College had a nice article fit right into my research. I went to the library to try to get it. The library went through all 25 of my lists and not a single one of them was real. So we have to be very, very careful with AI. I tell the students, look at AI, but you have to verify it, because it will give you hallucinations.
Yeah.
But we have to be embracing AI going forward.
Okay, that's a good tip. We have a question in the audience.
So, I'm very familiar with Sam Altman, with OpenAI. He does a lot, and you're absolutely right. There are some discriminatory things that occur in AI. My question for you is, does Clark Atlanta have a strategy to leverage AI to promote a lot of the things that are happening on campus? Because like you said earlier, you've got to go to the campus website and figure out what's going on. Are we leveraging AI to promote and put good things into it so it can give us good results on the back end?
Great question, and my answer is I don't believe we're doing a very good job. But I think I will take that back to our administration. Now, one of the things we do have is John Hope Bryant, along with our president, is a part of a committee that is looking at AI and how it's going to impact our community. But I don't think we've done a very good job yet, no.
Yes, another question.
Dr. Davis, do you know whether or not the university is open to other outsiders to come in to help with that?
Yes, we are.
One more question. Oh, did you have?
Oh, I guess just adding to it, what would be the best way for the university, if you are open to either learning more or working with outsiders, and I imagine maybe it's still the case for blockchain technology as well.
Yeah, we have a committee on AI that I don't have the information, but I can provide you with the information on the committee that's working with AI on Clark Atlanta's campus. And I'm sure it's the same thing at Morehouse and Spelman. But we as an AU center have to come together to really look at how AI is impacting our community. So I'll try to provide that information to Mary so she can put it on the website.
That's great. AI is a conversation that always gets people going because it's so new. It's so fascinating. And like we highlighted, it can be used in great ways, other ways for improvement. And so thank you so much for all the audience questions and just going kind of down that rabbit hole of it, because I always like to discuss AI.
And they had
Yeah, go
shared,
ahead.
I wanted to share a resource, and this was out of a conversation that I had with Jahari Soward, who is a director with In Pursuit Careers, and they are at the City of Refuge. And they actually work with trying to make sure that people are more aware about AI. So they did Yes Instruct with our Career Readiness Program, which is virtual. So online, our participants were able to learn more about how AI is influencing the career, how AI is influencing workforce, how it's used on Indeed and things of that nature. So I do encourage people, if they can, to connect with In Pursuit Careers, as again, we're good partners. So, and they definitely have utilized that information to disseminate it.
And, oh, yes,
Excuse
another
me,
question.
can you repeat that resource again?
Yes, In Pursuit Careers.
Thank you.
And so I did want to go back to the original question. Do you have any insider information about new workforce development programs or anything that's coming down the pipeline that we can get first dibs knowledge about?
So I would say that, well, first of all, let me just say that on every other Friday, to answer your question, we are always looking at what is out there, like we say, with the money on the table, trying to get the money on the table. The Urban League of Greater Atlanta is very much run by grants and foundation giving money to us to make sure that we continue to operate. So in that regard, when it comes to what is out there for us in the community, we're always trying to be in the know about what's out there. So as of right now, I may not be able to give you information, but I know that we have information to share. Like I said, and these meetings are inclusive to the staff. We meet every other Friday, and we have a person that's over our grant program, and so we talk about, you know, what is this out there, especially with the youth. And I just want to make sure you all know that, again, funding is so important for things to continue to operate. And so with that being said, when you have funding and stuff, then you can also be able to acknowledge other organizations that might have funding for the individual, because then you can just continue to share that money, because as we get money, then you can be able to share with all the things.
Sounds good. So this, as you guys know, today's community conversation is about learning to leadership in our community. So I do want to shift gears just a little bit and talk about more of the leadership and impact questions. And so I'll start with you, Mr. Ed. What do you think it means to be a leader? What skills and qualities do leaders embody? I know this is a tough one, right?
No, not really.
Okay.
I would say good communication skills, ability to gauge a situation and hear different courses of actions for people, but being able to make a decision and then following through on that decision. Not being put off by people that disagree with you. Ability to stay firm in your commitment to what you want to do, and also being able to research. I mean, leaders have to be knowledgeable, but leaders have to do their research and not always react without having a firm understanding of what the impact of their decisions may be. Because as a leader, you always have to think of yourself as the first among equals and not being somebody's boss. I was the dean of the business school for 15 years. And every decision I made, 50% of the people were not in agreement. So I always thought that 100% of the people were against me. And then I always thought of myself as the first among equals. So you have to make sure that people see your vision. You have to articulate your vision. But the vision has to be one that people will glom onto and make sure that you can fulfill your vision. So vision is important, research is important, communication skills are important, and compassion is important. So those are the things I think would make a good leader.
Okay, that was a great list. And so, of course, my follow-up is going to be, what are you guys doing at Clark Atlanta through any of your programming to encourage those skills that you just mentioned in our youth or just people in general in the community?
Not so much in the community, but in our students, we always put them in positions either through their different kinds of organizations where they have to acquire those leadership skills. And one of the things we do is we have classes that teach leadership. We have for freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, a one-credit course on leadership and professional development, where they put in leadership positions. They have to either have a leader in the position, or they're not a leader, they're a follower. So they have to take both avenues, and we put them in positions where they can make mistakes, and those mistakes don't have traumatic downfalls. So those courses we think are very important, and we put those practices in about 10 years ago, and it's been very successful.
So I will turn it to you. So you know my two questions, it's twofold. So what do you think a leader is? And also, what are you guys doing at Urban League to foster those skills and qualities?
So I think a leader is, and I was thinking about it as we're talking, because I feel like I have grown into that myself. So I was trying to think of how would I personally approach that? And I would say definitely compassion, but also the willingness to accept criticism as well. And to be able to listen to what somebody else has to say. And again, listening, don't just hear, but listen. And so the other, I think, is definitely being willing to put in the effort and the work that it takes, because you can't just show up. As they say, you need to show up. You need to make sure that your impact is seen and heard and valued, But also a leader, I think, definitely encompasses the whole in terms of being able to want to touch everyone. And even if you don't successfully touch one person, you just keep trying. and, that, you know, that the relationships are very important to maintain. And a leader is long-term. It's not just a short-term value.
That's great. And so at Urban League, can you talk a little bit more about any programming that, because we talked about multiple programs that you guys have. So what in your programs are you doing to encourage those skills and qualities?
Well, in a lot of our programs, we promote leadership, of course, because again, as you are working on yourself or identifying yourself to grow, that can also be personal leadership. Because you may have a certain role in your family where you're trying to make sure that you continue on to help promote your family. You might be the individual, or you might again have a family unit. So with that being said, we do have other programs in which I represent as a board member with our Civic Engagement and Leadership Division, which is with the Atlanta Citizens Review Board, which is under the Mayor's Office of the City of Atlanta. And I will say that in the last year or so, I've worked with the Executive Director, Samuel Lee Reed, to develop a program with the youth in which they were able to have a discussion, an open discussion, a hard discussion regarding community engagement or policing that can occur, and especially, and I put a heart to that as far as that programming, because I am a mother of a 24-year-old son. And as a African-American male, you know, I'm always concerned when he leaves the house. And so, and that's just being transparent. And I think that it's not so much because of what he will do, it's what's out there. And so, so it's very important for especially our young men, but also our young women as well, to understand what it means to engage with a police officer. What is the right thing to do, and what resource you have to file a complaint. And again, that's with the Atlanta Citizens Review Board, to file a complaint. And briefly, I'll just say that that is real because, again, I'm one of 13 board members, and I represent the Urban League of Greater Atlanta, who has an investment in that because we want to make sure that our communities are safe and that our communities understand what it is to have advocacy and that the rights that you have. And that's also including the right to vote. As soon as you get 18, please go register to vote. Please get out there to vote. And that's what I want to say on behalf of Nancy Blake Johnson and Urban League Greater Atlanta. Voting is your power.
I have a program to add at Clark Atlanta. When we bring freshmen in, we have a professor named Dennis Kimbrough who puts on something called the CEO Academy. And every freshman then is introduced to leadership roles. But what we do is we bring in leaders from the community. And so our students as freshmen are exposed to lots of leaders throughout their freshman year. So they're getting leadership skills from people that are actually out there doing it in the community. And I think if we have community people that want to get involved, they should contact Dennis Kimbrough because he's always looking for support to bring people in to work with our freshman students. So they talk about leadership start, something that many of us did not get in college. We went there to take these courses, but we never thought about leadership. But they're going to graduate and become leaders in the community.
I think that is the perfect segue. I just wanted to highlight the fact that we know education, leadership, civic engagement, all of those things really go hand in hand. And I think today, as we're on the verge of electing our first Black woman president, this conversation is ever so timely and really important. So I'm glad you both were able to kind of highlight some of the work that both of you guys' organizations are doing to encourage civic engagement and voting in general. So thank you so much for that. Overall, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about your role at Urban League and what your program does, and also at Clark Atlanta and the great work you guys are doing there. And so as we begin to wrap the conversation, I want to know, where can the community connect with you guys? I'll start with you first, Ms. Williams. Where can we either volunteer to be a part of Urban League's work or just sign up to be a participant in all the many programs that you guys have?
Yes, so I would encourage all those out there listening to us, please go to our website, which is www.ulgatl.org. Again, that's www.ulgatl.org. Also, as I stated earlier, we have on Tuesday mornings at 9:30 a.m. Via Zoom, we have an FEERC orientation. So you'll be able to hear about all our 5 pillars that we have to offer, our services, and be able to meet several of our team members on that call. Lastly, I will give my information out real quick and say that if you want to directly reach out to me, again, my name is Leah Pulliam, and my email is lpulliam, Pulliam as in Mary, @ulgatl.org. I know that's a lot, but that is how you can reach me personally by email. Please email me. You can also reach me by phone, and I can share that information if you'd like as well.
I think they are gonna type it in the
Okay,
chat. so
good.
yeah.
Okay, so 404-840-6295. If you contact me and you're calling me about programs that I'm not necessarily over, I'll make sure you get to the right person.
Okay, thank you, and I'll turn it to you.
Yeah, my name is Edward Davis. Again, my email address is edavis@cau.edu. I also would say, go to the Clark Atlanta website. There's a wealth of opportunities to get involved, find out what kind of programming we're doing. And our website is www.cau.edu. Again, my name is Edward Davis, edavis@cau.edu.
Okay, thank you so much, and we're not quite done yet. And so I have a final question that I always like to ask people when I interview. So, because I know as we come to interviews, we come with our talking points, right? So is there anything that you have not gotten a chance to say today about your organization that you want to leave with us? It could be something that you've already said and want to reemphasize, or it could be a note card that you pulled out your jacket pocket. So I will start with you instead.
One of the things I think that goes unused is that institutions like colleges, we have faculty and students ready to do research. Many times in our classes, we're looking for research projects from people from the outside so that the students can do real, actual research and do real programming. But we never get those programs a lot of times, so we have to create things for the students to do. So I would say if you have a research project or any kind of marketing plan that you're working on, or any kind of financial plan that you need, use my email. I could be the conduit for you to say, look, you have this problem. Do you have a class or do you have some students that can work on this problem? Let me give you an example. One of our alumni runs something up in New York called the Harlem Fine Arts Show every year. He presented that to a marketing class, and they put together a marketing program for him to expand because he was going from an in-person show to a virtual show. So we get those kinds of programs. There are lots of activities that you can get from students and faculty that you may not know of, but if you send me an email, I could link and find out if we have some students or class where you have a problem that can be worked on. So edavis@cau.edu.
Thank you so much. Ms. Leah?
So I would say, just reiterating again, that civic engagement, as I say, is the heartbeat of our organization, and leadership is so important because community impact is so important. And that's how we're able to reach others by giving information, exposure, and further the knowledge of a person, so that person hopefully won't be the same person as when they met you. That they can walk away more educated, have more information, and be able to also share it with someone else. That's what I hope for, is that knowledge is shared, and again, vote.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions in the audience or in Zoom? Yes.
We had a question from Mr. Gordon Smith. He asked, and if it wasn't covered, how can other universities apply for the PNC programs?
Well, Clark Atlanta University is a satellite university for all the universities in the state of Georgia, Alabama, and I believe South Carolina. So send me an email and I'll put you in touch with our executive director, and they can tell you if they have opportunities. edavis@cau.edu.
Are there any other questions? All right, well, thank you both for your time today. This has been a great, fruitful conversation. We really hope the audience got something from that, and we actually do have another question.
Not as much a question as a comment of this session today. This was the final episode of our three-part series, and I just want the audience to join me in giving this session a round of applause, and especially our guest and our new host today. And secondly, this information we got today from these leaders, phenomenal. I'm going to use most of it, and I hope that each of you will as well. And thirdly, I'm very, very pleased with the direction that the conversations are going. We are getting so much information brought out to this community, and we need it. Dr. Davis, thank you so much for all that you shared with us today. You've answered a lot of questions that I didn't know where to go to ask.
Thank you.
And thank you for edavis@cau.edu. You were phenomenal, and don't you go anywhere anytime soon. You heard me say earlier, I've got 30 more years.
Yes,
I would love to spend some of those years with you.
we'll do that.
Okay, thank you. And Leah, thank you so much for the sharing of all the things that's going on over at Urban League. And you know, Nancy knows, but please take some love back to her from us.
Definitely.
As the founder of the Mary Parker Foundation, everything that you all spoke of here on stage today is my vision. What you've done today to help bring that vision to pass or even increase the timeline is by providing us the details we need to help support you as well. You all have the programs, we have the community, and we have a campus. So I'll get with Nancy. I know that it's something we've talked about, but we will be forming a collaborative partnership with her. We would like to also invite you all to come out, and we'll bring you an audience to introduce some of your programs to our community. In addition to that, we'll also serve as a hub if you need additional place to do your training and leadership development. Dr. Davis, I don't have to talk to you right now, but audience, please, please adhere to the clarion call. You guys are calling and asking for more resources for the community, when we're gonna get this and when we're gonna get that. We're gonna get it, but we definitely do need your help. And the greatest way you can help is by participating. We can go and identify all the partnerships. We can invest in this community, but if you're not eating from our table, I must say that it is work in vain. Please don't do that to us. Everything we're doing is absolutely intentional and is for you. Thanks again, leaders.
Thank you.
And for our audience, we want to say to you, stay tuned. There's more to come. Next quarter, our theme will be your annual checkup. We will do checkups in health and wellness with your financial literacy. And we will also do a health and wellness checkup on many of the other things, such as Medicare, Medicaid, insurances, things that will impact your livelihood. Here in the community is what we're bringing. So again, stay tuned. There's more to come. Dr. Mary Parker, founder of the Mary Parker Foundation, and you can find us at maryparkerfoundation.com. God bless you all.